the quiet suburb of Maplewood, located in upstate New York, life seems perfect on the outside. Families live in beautiful homes, children play in the streets, and everyone knows each other. However, beneath this peaceful surface lies a shocking secret, a steamy affair between Emma Williams, who is married to Robert Williams, and David Ross, the husband of Emma's cousin, Lucy Harper. What starts as a hidden romance quickly spirals out of control and ends in a murder that shakes the entire community. At 36 years old, David is a successful financial consultant, known for his sharp intellect and charm. To the outside world, he appears to have a perfect life, a well-paying job, a beautiful home in a desirable neighborhood, and a loving wife, Lucy. They have built a life together that many envy. However, beneath this polished exterior lies a troubling secret. David struggles with a gambling addiction that has been growing over the years. Despite his success, he often feels trapped in his marriage, finding himself longing for excitement and freedom. As his gambling habits escalate, so do his feelings of shame and isolation. He starts seeking thrills outside his marriage, which leads him into the arms of Emma, his cousin-in-law. What begins as a thrilling escape quickly turns into an obsessive affair, where the lines between desire and danger blur. David finds himself caught in a web of lies, unsure of how to extricate himself from both his marriage and the affair that is spiraling out of control. At 34, Emma is a stay-at-home wife who feels the weight of loneliness in her marriage to Robert Williams. With Robert frequently traveling for work, Emma often spends her days alone, yearning for companionship and excitement. She has always admired her cousin Lucy, seeing her as a beacon of stability and happiness. However, Emma's own marriage feels unfulfilling, leading her to seek comfort in an unexpected place. David, her cousin's husband. The two initially bond over shared interests and experiences, but their connection quickly deepens into a passionate affair. Emma becomes infatuated with David, convinced that he is the answer to her unhappiness. As their relationship becomes more intense and complicated, Emma finds herself torn between the thrill of their secret romance and the guilt of betraying her cousin. The affair consumes her thoughts and emotions, leading her to make reckless decisions that will have dire consequences. At 35, Lucy is a dedicated wife and mother who prides herself on her nurturing nature. She has always viewed Emma as a sister, and their close relationship has been a source of comfort and joy in her life. Lucy believes she has built a happy family with David, sharing dreams of a bright future together. However, when she discovers the affair between David and Emma, her world shatters. The betrayal cuts deep, leaving her reeling with feelings of hurt, anger, and disbelief. Lucy finds herself grappling with the painful reality that two of the people she trusted the most have betrayed her in the worst way possible. As she confronts the truth, Lucy must navigate her emotions, struggling to understand how the people she loved could deceive her so profoundly. This crisis forces her to reevaluate her life, her marriage, and the very foundation of her relationships. Emma and Lucy, raised like sisters, Emma and Lucy had always supported each other through life's challenges. They shared a bond that went beyond family. They were best friends. Emma often turned to Lucy for advice and encouragement, and Lucy viewed Emma as her confidant. However, unbeknownst to Lucy, the foundation of their relationship was about to be shattered. The deep betrayal of having her cousin engage in an affair with her husband would leave Lucy feeling not only heartbroken, but also questioning the trust she had in those closest to her. David and Emma, what began as friendly chats during family gatherings, quickly transformed into stolen moments and secret rendezvous. Chemistry between them was electric, igniting a passion neither had anticipated. They shared intimate conversations, revealing personal struggles and desires, which drew them closer. David's charm and Emma's vulnerability created a dangerous cocktail of emotions, leading them to justify their actions as love. However, the thrill of their affair came with a heavy price, as both became increasingly entangled in a web of deceit and betrayal. Robert Williams, Emma's husband, Robert, was largely unaware of the affair that was unfolding right under his nose. A hard-working businessman, he spent long hours away on work trips, leaving Emma to manage the household alone. Robert loved Emma, but was often preoccupied with his job, believing he was providing for their family and ensuring their future. His absence created a void that Emma filled with David, leading to a scandal that would unravel their lives. When the truth finally emerged, Robert's world would be turned upside down, forcing him to confront the betrayal of both his wife and his cousin-in-law. It was a cool autumn evening in Maplewood when Lucy Harper returned home from a long day of errands. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting a shadow over their quiet suburban neighborhood. As she entered her house, she noticed the unsettling stillness that enveloped her surroundings. A sense of unease washed over her as she called out for her husband, David, but received no answer. Worry gnawed at her as she walked through the hallway, her heart racing. Approaching their bedroom, she noticed the door slightly ajar. With a mix of apprehension and dread, she pushed it open, only to be met with a horrifying sight. David lay sprawled on the floor, lifeless and motionless, his head at an unnatural angle. A dark stain pooled around his skull, a stark contrast against the beige carpet. Lucy rushed forward, her breath catching in her throat, but it was clear he was beyond help. Panic surged through her, and she fumbled for her phone to call 911, her hands trembling uncontrollably. When the operator answered, she could barely form coherent words, her mind racing with disbelief. "My husband, he's dead," she finally managed to cry out, her voice breaking. As the paramedics arrived, it became evident that David had suffered a violent blow to the head. The room bore no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no disturbed furniture, nothing that suggested a robbery had taken place. It quickly became apparent to the authorities that this was a targeted attack, raising questions about who would want to harm David Ross. As the investigation unfolded, a series of crucial pieces of evidence came to light. One of the first items examined was David's phone. When detectives unlocked it, they discovered a treasure trove of incriminating information. Hundreds of text messages exchanged between David and Emma were found, revealing the depth of their affair. The messages ranged from flirtatious banter to intimate exchanges, showcasing a secret world that Lucy had never been aware of. Accompanying the texts were explicit photos that painted a vivid picture of their clandestine relationship, further complicating the emotional fallout for Lucy. In addition to the phone, the crime scene revealed a broken vase lying shattered near David's body. Upon closer inspection, forensic experts identified it as the murder weapon, covered in fingerprints belonging to both David and Emma. The vase had been violently thrown, leading to the conclusion that a struggle may have occurred, though the details of that struggle remained unclear. The discovery of the vase added another layer of complexity to the case, suggesting a confrontation between David and his assailant. Detective Jason Miller, the lead investigator assigned to the case, arrived promptly, his sharp instincts kicking into high gear. Known for his methodical approach, Miller began by surveying the crime scene, taking in every detail with a keen eye. He spoke with the paramedics, gathering preliminary information about the condition of the body and the circumstances surrounding the discovery. After ensuring that the scene was secure, he began questioning Lucy, who was still in shock. Her distraught demeanor painted a heartbreaking picture of a woman who had just lost her husband. As she recounted her day, Miller noted her distress but also observed the underlying strength in her voice as she spoke about their life together. Yet, amidst her grief, there were signs of anger and betrayal brewing just below the surface. Miller then turned his attention to other potential witnesses, including neighbors and family members. Each interview revealed snippets of information that painted a complex portrait of David's life. Suspicion began to coalesce around multiple individuals, most notably Emma, whose close ties to both Lucy and David now placed her firmly in the spotlight. The revelation of the affair began to spread like wildfire through the small community, adding layers of intrigue and animosity as friends and family processed the shocking betrayal. As Detective Miller delved deeper into the investigation, he sensed the intertwining of emotions and motivations among those connected to David. The deeper he probed, the more he uncovered a tangled web of relationships that would ultimately lead him to the heart of the crime. A story filled with passion, betrayal, and a desperate search for answers. As the investigation into David Ross's murder unfolds, several key suspects emerge, each with their own motives and alibis that complicate the case further. The tension within the community grows as secrets begin to unravel, and Detective Jason Miller must navigate through layers of deception to uncover the truth. With the affair now public, Emma quickly becomes the prime suspect in David's murder. When interviewed by Detective Miller, she claims she met David just the day before his death to discuss their future, insisting that their relationship was simply a passionate fling. Despite her claims of innocence, inconsistencies in her story begin to surface. Emma maintains she was at home during the time of the murder, trying to portray herself as the heartbroken lover. However, her emotional state raises suspicion while she appears distraught over David's death. There's an underlying sense of guilt that Detective Miller picks up on. Initially devastated by the news of her husband's murder and the revelation of the affair, Lucy's emotions soon shift from heartbreak to a simmering anger. As the investigation progresses, she starts to question everything she thought she knew about her marriage and her cousin. Detective Miller notes that Lucy's grief is tinged with rage, leading to speculation about whether her heartbreak could have driven her to commit a crime of passion. Lucy's alibi is shaky, as she was out shopping at the time of the murder, but witnesses cannot place her at the store during the crucial hours. Emma's husband, Robert, is often away on business trips, which places him in a convenient position regarding the timeline of David's murder. While he claims to have been in another state at the time, his frequent absences raise questions about his involvement or potential knowledge of the affair. Detective Miller investigates Robert's alibi, trying to verify his location and uncover any motive he might have had to harm David, especially if he had learned about the affair. Emma's insistence that she was home when David was killed begins to unravel as neighbors come forward with conflicting statements. Some report seeing her car parked outside David's house on the night of the murder, despite her claims of being home. This crucial piece of evidence puts Emma's alibi in jeopardy, leading Detective Miller to further scrutinize her movements leading up to the crime. New evidence comes to light, suggesting that Lucy may have discovered the affair days before David's murder. A close friend of Lucy's reveals that she had confided in her about her suspicions regarding David and Emma. This revelation raises the question of whether Lucy had confronted David about the affair, and if such a confrontation could have escalated into violence. Lucy's potential motive of revenge adds another layer to the investigation, making her a person of interest. As Detective Miller delves deeper into David's life, he uncovers hidden financial issues that complicate the narrative. David's gambling addiction has left him in significant debt, and a recent life insurance policy raises eyebrows. The policy would have paid out a substantial sum upon his death, leading Miller to question whether financial gain could have motivated someone close to David to commit murder. The broken vase found next to David's body becomes a key piece of evidence in the investigation. Forensic experts analyze it for fingerprints and DNA. The results show traces of both David and Emma's fingerprints, indicating that Emma had been in the house recently, possibly during a confrontation. This evidence further complicates her claims of innocence and places her in a precarious position. The autopsy reveals that David died from blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with the type of injury that could be inflicted with the broken vase. The medical examiner concludes that the injuries were not accidental, confirming that David's death was a homicide. This finding solidifies the need for a deeper investigation into the relationships and motives surrounding the case. As Detective Miller navigates through the complex web of lies, relationships, and hidden agendas, it becomes increasingly clear that the truth is more twisted than anyone could have imagined. Each suspect presents a different puzzle piece, and Miller must fit them together to solve the case of David Ross's murder. As the trial begins, the atmosphere in the courtroom is charged with tension and anticipation. This case has captured the community's attention, and the stakes are incredibly high for Emma Williams, who stands accused of the murder of David Ross. The courtroom is packed with reporters, community members, and family members from both sides, all eager to witness the unfolding drama of betrayal, infidelity, and tragedy. The prosecution opens its case with a clear and dramatic presentation, outlining their argument that Emma is guilty of murdering David. Lead prosecutor Jennifer Marks stands confidently before the jury, articulating the prosecution's theory that Emma had a strong motive to kill her lover when he threatened to end their affair. The prosecution emphasizes that the affair was passionate yet tumultuous. They describe how Emma, feeling increasingly insecure about her relationship with David, was pushed to the edge when he threatened to walk away. The prosecution paints a picture of a desperate woman whose longing for love and excitement blinded her to the consequences of her actions. To support their claims, the prosecution introduces a series of text messages exchanged between Emma and David. These messages reveal a heated and tumultuous relationship filled with jealousy and anger. For example, prosecutors read out messages where Emma expresses frustration over David's mixed signals and threats to leave her for good. The emotional content of these texts is highlighted as indicative of an obsessive relationship, framing Emma as someone who could potentially resort to violence in a moment of emotional turmoil. The prosecution calls Samantha Reed, a close friend of Emma's, who testifies about Emma's emotional state leading up to the murder. Samantha describes a conversation in which Emma confided in her about feeling suffocated by the relationship and fearing that David would end things. This testimony aims to establish a motive driven by fear of abandonment and desperation. In addition, the prosecution introduces forensic evidence, including fingerprints found on the murder weapon, a kitchen knife, from David's home. They assert that this evidence is compelling enough to suggest that Emma was present at the scene and had the opportunity to commit the crime. They also reveal that Emma had no alibi for the time of the murder, as she was at home alone when David was killed. The defense, led by attorney Michael Grant, mounts a vigorous counterargument aimed at shifting the focus away from Emma. The defense argues that while Emma and David did engage in an affair, she did not have a motive strong enough to murder him. They claim that the real motive lies with Lucy, David's wife, who had every reason to be enraged by her husband's betrayal. The defense introduces evidence of a particularly heated argument between Lucy and David that occurred just days before his death. Witnesses, including a family friend, testify to overhearing raised voices and a confrontation filled with accusations. They describe Lucy as visibly upset and emotionally volatile, suggesting that her anger and jealousy could have driven her to commit murder. The defense argues that Lucy was hurt by David's infidelity and felt betrayed by both him and her cousin. To bolster their case, the defense brings in character witnesses who testify about Emma's nature and how she is not the violent type. They speak about Emma's love for her family, her caring nature, and her close relationship with Lucy, arguing that she would never harm someone she considered family. The defense also calls on a psychologist to testify about the emotional impact of infidelity on individuals. The psychologist explains that feelings of betrayal can lead to extreme emotional responses, suggesting that Lucy's emotional state could have driven her to commit the crime. As the trial unfolds, key witnesses are brought to the stand, each contributing to the evolving narrative. A neighbor, Thomas Baker, testifies that he saw Emma's car parked near David's house on the night of the murder. He describes hearing raised voices, but admits that he could not identify who was arguing. The prosecution uses this testimony to reinforce their claim that Emma was present during the crime. However, the defense seizes this opportunity to challenge Thomas's credibility, questioning how reliable his memory is, and pointing out the lack of concrete evidence linking Emma directly to the murder. They argue that the neighbor's testimony is circumstantial at best. In a dramatic moment, Lucy takes the stand. With tears streaming down her face, she presents herself as the innocent victim in this tragic tale. She recounts her love for David and the pain she felt when she discovered the affair. Lucy describes the emotional toll the betrayal took on her, emphasizing that she never wished harm on anyone. Her portrayal aims to elicit sympathy from the jury, positioning herself as a grieving widow caught in a web of deception. Lucy's testimony is emotional and compelling, but the defense is prepared. They ask her pointed questions about her relationship with David and whether she ever felt overwhelmed by the stress of their marriage. Lucy insists that she would never resort to violence, but the defense subtly hints at her emotional instability following the affair's revelation. As the trial progresses, the courtroom remains captivated by the unfolding drama. The jury is tasked with sifting through conflicting narratives and emotional testimonies, each painting a different picture of love, betrayal, and ultimately, murder. The trial stands at a pivotal moment, with the community holding its breath, eager to see how justice will unfold in this tangled web of relationships.